Hello again. It's been a while since I've done any kind of video, and you know, I'm just a casual YouTube creator, but I thought it was about time I did a little update on the L322 because I've had it for a while now, and it's been something that's been on my mind for a couple of weeks. Having looked it up, today is my 300-day anniversary with this car. Almost 10 months. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I figure that a lot of you that are watching this are not people that already own these. You are the people who really want an L322. You know, you want a Range Rover Sport, Discovery, whatever, but you know it's a really stupid idea and you probably shouldn't buy one. Yet here you are. This is my first Range Rover, and I bought this from an auction. It's my first time buying a car from an auction, sight unseen. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but if you want to watch that video, I'll link it up here for you, and you can decide whether or not it was a smart move. Almost 10 months down the line, I'm still trying to decide if it was a smart move. But actually, whether it's a smart move or not, these are a heart over head purchase, and if you want one and it's niggling at you and you keep thinking you want one, just buy it, get on with it. It's not going to be cheap, it's not going to be smooth sailing, but you know that. That's why we make these videos, that's why there's so much of this type of content out there for you to see. Eyes wide open, feet first, jump in, go for it. Because on a day like today, you're not going to regret it. You're just not. I mean, look at this. I'm out here in the sunshine at the end of June, lording it over the countryside. What's not to like? And I use this car every day almost, and I use it for a lot of short journeys, station runs, I use it for long journeys. I pretty much do all the things that you shouldn't be doing with an old Range Rover. And it's fine. I mean, it brakes, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't, but it's not that bad. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because when you look at these things objectively, if you go onto a forum or you search the internet and you say, right, I want an L322, I've always wanted one, and I've got a little bit of money behind me and they're cheap, and should I do it? And the answer is yes and no, but for different reasons. So what I want you to do, or what I want to give, is an objective, balanced opinion on owning one. And I like to think that I did it a little bit more smartly than a lot of people. Obviously not the original purchase, that was ridiculous and stupid. But I went into it with my eyes open, I bought a car, and I spent a good chunk of money on it straight away. And that gave me a bit of longevity, and I think has served me really well to say, you know, that I've had 10 months of not trouble-free motoring, but it's not been any more trouble than any other car I've ever owned. You know, and I bought it broken. I bought it knowing full well that something wasn't going to be right about it. So as I say, watch that video if you haven't done and you're interested and you want to see exactly what I got myself into and what I did about it. This is an update. So we are 300 days, 10 months, as near as makes any difference, into owning an L322. And I wanted to go through what I've done to it pretty much since my initial purchase. Not wanting to go over that old ground too much, as I've said. But what I will do, just a very quick recap, at the end of the previous video on this car, I had purchased it, I'd done a fair amount of work on it, and I'd spent £1,072 and some pence on things that needed addressing and some preventative maintenance. Now, 10 months down the line, I've spent a bit more, and we'll cover all that off in a minute properly when I stop and I can get the list out. But it hasn't been that bad. It just hasn't. So let's talk about the horror stories then, because these are the things that you always see. You know, my Range Rover's in limp mode. My Range Rover's got an air suspension fault. Range Rovers are a nightmare, etc. I haven't had any suspension faults on this one. I've had one on my wife's Discovery 4, which was just corroded wiring to a sensor. Just no big deal. But took a little bit of work to find, so it was a little bit more tricky. But again, you know, we've had that for 18 months now, and that is used every single day. It's a mum car, and it goes well, and she loves it, and yeah, we're very pleased. So to this one, what have I done with it of late? As I say, it is pretty much my daily drive now. I have, in the time I've owned it, used it for commuting to work, station runs. I towed another L322 all the way back from Cornwall to Maidstone in Kent. So ton of trailer on the back, 2.5 ton of L322, if near as makes any difference, on the top of it. And you know what? It might have actually been cheaper than driving 2 L322s over that distance. Over 760 mile round trip, this averaged almost 22 to the gallon, which is pretty good, because, you know, round town it does 19, and I usually average around 21, 22. And this one's the TD V8 3.6 with the 6-speed box. They're not the most economical, certainly could be worse, I guess. And what else have I done? So 2 weeks ago I drove it to southwest France, took my father down there to see his friend, and we got in it at 5:30 in the morning. We had one 20-minute stop, and at about 4:30 in the afternoon UK time we arrived at our destination, and we didn't get out of it aside from that one 20-minute stop. What an amazing car for distance. Absolutely amazing. Wasn't uncomfortable at any given point, and alright, yeah, a little bit thirsty to run, but actually it averaged 28.5 miles per gallon over that journey, and that was cruising at 130 kilometers an hour, so about 80 miles an hour, most of it, where possible. My C43 will do just nudge 30 on that run. Mustang, 28, 29. Yeah, we haven't got a car that does any different on fuel economy, really. I guess the Mustang might have been slightly cheaper, being running on unleaded, but by the time you filled it with super, and the same with the C43, nah, makes no difference. Plus, I can get Dad's mobility scooter, his walker, his walking sticks, all of our luggage, bits and pieces we're taking down there for a friend, you know, everything in here and in supreme comfort. So this was the one we chose. And it was a great choice. Obviously it broke, because not because it's a Range Rover, actually, because I can't ever leave Roy's place without one of my vehicles breaking. Every time I go there, there's a problem on the day I leave or the day before, and this chose the night before to split a boost hose. You know, all right, consumable item really, as far as I'm concerned. We've put a boost hose on the Discovery. My friend put one on his Mondeo, and from Ford, that was more expensive than the two for the top of this. So I don't think that's bad. Again, I bought those OEM from Land Rover without any discount, and they cost me £106.24, I think, for the 2 top boost hoses. You know, consumable, right? Other things I've had to do in the last week or so is the parking brake shoes. Goodness only knows what had happened to them. The backing had rotted, blown the friction material off. They started screeching a fair bit, and I've recently replaced calipers and pads, and although the discs didn't look too bad, oh man, shorts on a motorcycle, please, just don't. Speaking of somebody who's got a skin graft on their lower leg and was wearing trousers at the time, I find that really, it's just risky. It's his choice, he's riding it. Yeah, so parking brake shoes, friction material blew off. I guess it got stuck in the shoe and drum mechanism inside the disc, and it was screeching as it was going round. Driving to southwest France, that gets rid of that. But the parking brake wasn't much good afterwards. So yeah, new discs, new shoes, new calipers, new pads, you know, a whole rear brake refresh. But that's not bad. And I haven't got any documentation for the parking brake shoes, and it's very rare that, because they're not actuated on the foot brake, that they ever get changed. And I suppose there's every chance they were original. You know, that's, what's that? It's done 160,000 miles now. This is a 2010 car. It's 13 years old. That's probably enough, isn't it? I can't begrudge it a bit of money on that. So since the last video, I had the gearbox serviced, and remember that was included in my initial budget. That was $585.52. I replaced a headlight bulb at $21.99 and a headlight ballast, which failed, which was £35 second hand. I then did a full beam LED upgrade, because the full beam is just halogen and not great, for $36.99, and that's not really maintenance, but it's a nice to have. The full rear brake overhaul in parts alone was £320.71. Then I had a pair of upper turbo hoses at $106.25, a washer jet nozzle that failed, £14.99, and one of the rear bumper reflectors fell out, and that was $14.99 for a pair. And I replaced the front door speakers with some Pioneer ones that were $33.96. Which, you know, so that's some maintenance and some nice to haves. Overall, that's £1,170.40. Which, if we remove the $585.52 for the gearbox service, means that I've actually spent £584.88 in maintenance in 10 months. That's not bad, is it? I don't think so. If you're going to run an old car for, you know, a daily drive, and you spend £585, £600 on maintenance parts in the thick end of a year, is that unreasonable? Because I just don't think it is. And like I've said, I think I've been relatively lucky, but I've also tried to be a little bit savvy about the way I do my work, or the way I do my maintenance on my vehicles. I try and do some preventative, and then hopefully you don't have too many problems going forward. Now, there's a few things to remember. If you're thinking seriously about doing this, and I would say if you're handy with the spanners if you're quite willing to do a bit of maintenance, or you've got a bit of money put by and you're going to be realistic about it, definitely get yourself in an L322. They are pricey to run, and the parts are not cheap, but the reward is fantastic. And most people don't think anything of spending £200 or £300 a month on a new car. Half of their justification for that is that, you know, well, they haven't got to worry if anything goes wrong, it's covered by warranty. Well, yeah, okay. You spend £300 a month, that's £3,600 a year. Really, if you've got a £300 a month budget and you can get one of these for the price of a deposit on a new car, you probably haven't got to worry about the maintenance on one of these if anything goes wrong. There are still some big ticket items, aren't there? Gearbox, right? Yeah, it's going to be a couple of grand when it goes bang, but that's if it does. And a lot of these have had them rebuilt anyway. This one, as far as I can tell, hasn't. It's now done, it's just rolled over 160,000 miles on the clock this morning. And yeah, I mean, maybe I'm on borrowed time with a gearbox. Maybe. But if I have to spend £2 grand on a gearbox rebuild for this, how do I look at it? Do I look at it that it suddenly cost me £2,000 to repair an old Range Rover? Or do I say, I've got at least another 100,000 miles out of that now? And that's 100,000 miles of using it properly. I mean, I can pull 3.5 ton on the back of this if I wanted to. And as long as I keep it serviced and keep on top of it, I should be able to continue to do that. Now that's not, you know, that's not how I earn my money. That's nothing, and I don't actually need to do that, but I could do it. So, yeah, that's the gearbox. What's the other big ticket item on this? Well, turbos. You know, yes, replacing the turbos on these is an expensive job. I haven't really looked into it because currently I don't need to. Touch fake wood. But, you know, there's a chance that I might need to. And if that happens, I'll probably tackle that one myself. I shall be filled with regret the moment I start it, no doubt. But I will do it myself, I think, because it's too pricey otherwise. I was quite cheered to find when I took the top hoses off to replace them the other day that there was no real oil at all in the intercooler or the top hoses, which seems that my turbo seals are probably, again, touch wood, pretty good. And so I'm confident as I can be that the turbos on this are as good as we can, well, I guess as good as we can suggest they are without taking them off to inspect them. And if I take them off, then obviously I'm going to change them. What else is likely to go wrong? Well, suspension. That's always everybody's fear, isn't it? Air suspension. Oh, the air suspension problems with the Range Rover. Well, what are the air suspension problems? And let's be honest, they're not specific to Range Rover, or Land Rover rather. You know, Mercedes S-Class runs air suspension. BMW E39 Touring has air suspension on the back of it, and that's been out since, what, 96? That's not new. Mercedes ML can have an air suspension option. Audi Q7, a friend of mine had one of those with about 20,000 on the clock. Failed airbag on the front of it, air spring. You know, it happens. I guess I wouldn't be looking forward to replacing the shock absorbers on this because this has got the adaptive damping on it. They're going to be expensive, probably more so than an air spring. Way more, in fact. And changing them isn't that hard. Yes, they suffer with valve block issues sometimes, and the air compressor can be a problem. You know, it wears out over time. My understanding on that is the part is about £3, and nobody will tell you where you can buy it. You have to buy a refurbished air compressor. But even that, again, £350. It's under the spare wheel. You can change it yourself. It's not that bad a job. So, realistically, I don't actually think that these are any worse than any other car. They drink a bit of fuel, that's a given. It has something of a voracious appetite for diesel. But that's okay with me. I will never understand the people that will spend £5,000-10,000 to get a car that's cheap to tax or cheap to run. You know, I don't see the point. And in most of it, it's a false economy. Let's keep this old stuff on the road. Keep it going. Please, keep it going. And if you don't, I will. To the best of my ability, I'm going to keep this on the road. Because I love it. I'm going to have to do some suspension bushes on it. That's going to be probably the next bit of preventative maintenance. A couple of them came up on the MOT. Well, actually, the MOT had 3 advisories last month or at the beginning of this month. Rear brake pads wearing low, suspension pin or bush worn, but not resulting in excessive movement, front, and the same on the rear. I'm not sure if that's auto-populated because I've never seen a Range Rover with an MOT that doesn't have that on it. It's just a normal thing. But the thing, you know, the car weighs over 2.5 tons. It's heavy. It wears components out. So what are you going to do now? You're going to buy one? Are you going to do it? Go on, I dare you. Get yourself in an L322. I think you should do it. I think you should own one. Just do it. Just try it. Right? What's the worst that's actually going to happen? You could lose some money. Chalk it up to experience. Move on. It just may not be the end of the world. But it very well might be one of the most exciting vehicles you've ever owned. I also need to disclaimer that if you get absolutely hooked on Range Rovers and, you know, it starts to cause you financial stress and worry and trouble indoors or whatever, I'm not responsible for that, right? You're a grown-up. You make your own decision. But do it. Do it. So serious question though, serious thing. Please do this if you can. Stick a comment in on this video because I really want to know whether I'm right. How many people watching this video are watching it because they want to own an L322 or they do own one or they have owned one, right? So tell me, owned, want, or currently own one of these L322s. What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? What would you rather have? You know, just give me something. I just want to gauge realistically how popular they are. As I think, as I said, a lot of people want to own one. And if you want to own one, excuse me, and you do own one, come back, let us know what you bought, let us know how you got on, and stick a video up there, just a 2-minute thing, a 30-second reel. I saw this idiot tell me that the best thing to do was to buy an L322, and I did it, and now I want to kill him, or I'm over the moon. You know, I'd love to know. I'd really love to know. So, all puns intended, I'm going to park this episode here. No, I can't. It's a main road. That didn't work. Damn it. We'll leave it there. Love to hear from you. Thank you once again for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope it's been fun for you. And when something breaks, I'll do a video. I hope not to see it too soon. It's been fun. I'm still smiling. I'm still driving it.